One Indianapolis this week.
And I think we need other voices to be heard.
He's patrolled the streets with the 10-point coalition. Now he may make a run for the city's top job. A Sunday morning exclusive with Reverend Charles Harrison about the race for mayor. Plus shocking new revelations about the investigation of Tony Bennett. The new details and what happens next in the case. And Governor Mike Pence lays out his plan for 2015, what it could mean for your children, and a possible run for the White House. And in the Sunday Spotlight, remembering an icon, Bill Mays.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week, a week where we are following several huge stories. We start with the race for mayor of Indianapolis and the new name joining the campaign. Reverend Charles Harrison filed formal paperwork Thursday to open an exploratory committee as he considers running for mayor. He's known throughout the community as the face of the 10-point coalition, a group of ministers and volunteers who work to reduce crime in the city's most violent neighborhoods.
We have had some successes in this city. Everyone has not benefited from the success and the economic development that has taken place in our city.
Joining us now for a Sunday morning exclusive is Reverend Charles Harrison. He is one of the leaders of the 10-point coalition. He has also worked with city leaders on programs in Indianapolis for more than 20 years. Why an exploratory committee? Why not just say, I am running for mayor of Indianapolis? Well,
first, I'm interested in hearing from the people. One can have an interest in running for mayor, but yet you have to have support, broad support. And I want to take this time to talk to people across the city, to listen, and to see how much interest there would be in Charles Harrison running for mayor of Indianapolis.
But you are already in the neighborhoods. You are
Yes.
someone that works the neighborhoods. What more do you need to hear or see to say, I may be the guy to run this city?
I think I have to expand the neighborhoods where, I've been working in. I've been working really in the urban core. I need to go all over Marion County and townships all over the city and talk to people about what are the real issues and concerns that they may have when it comes to the crucial issues we're facing in this city.
So what is the number one issue?
Well, I think there are several. Certainly crime is a major issue, and people's safety, throughout the city is a big issue. I think economic development. There are certain parts of our city that is doing very well, particularly downtown. But in some of our, neighborhoods, particularly in the urban core, they're not doing as well. There are a lot of those neighborhoods that are experiencing blight, and we need a balance in this city. We need to be doing well in the downtown area, but also we need some of that prosperity and growth to take place in many of our urban cores.
You have not declared whether you will run as a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, but when you talk about sort of the city on the hill that's beautiful and gleaming, and then you're talking about the neighborhoods that are not doing so well, you start to sound like Democrat Joe Hogsett. So will you challenge Joe Hogsett as a Democrat, or will you be a Republican or an independent?
Well, there's a possibility I may challenge Joe Hogsett. I am a registered Democrat, have been all of my life, and there's a chance that I may challenge him in the Democratic primary. But then there's also a possibility I may run as an independent. One of my concerns and what I'm hearing out in the community is that, people are kind of fed up with the process. For some, it's rigged, and candidates have already been chosen. And I don't want to be seen as just another politician, because I'm not. I'm someone that really cares about this community. I've spent, over 20 years of serving this community, not as a Democrat or Republican or independent or libertarian, but as a citizen that is concerned, and I want to do what I can to help this community, and maybe I can serve this community as the mayor of this city.
And clarify the issue when you say that the process may be rigged. Are we talking about the electoral process or the criminal justice? Which process are you talking about?
I think the slating process here in Marion County, I don't think it gives everyone an equal opportunity, to run. Parties tend to pick their candidate, and those candidates seem to be, more aligned with the interests of the party than with the needs of the people.
If elected, let's say you did run, and let's say you did win, what would be your first act on that first day?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that you know, we have to do, you know, here in this city. I really do. But, you know, because I want the city to know that Charles Harrison really cares about this city, you know, and that with the prosperity that this city is facing, and we are, you know, basically enjoying as a city, particularly in certain areas, but there are a lot of people who feel like they have not been a part of this, you know, and I want people from day one to know that they're going to experience a lot of this prosperity.
You are a minister, not a politician.
Yes.
Can you win based on that? You are not someone that's part of a party per se. Your party is the congregation.
Yes.
So can you win?
Yes. If I decide to run, I'm running to win. I believe I can win. If I decide to run, I believe I can win.
And on the issue, will you support, for example, the public safety tax? Will you support pre-K funding as well?
Well, pre-K funding, really that all started, you know, at Barnes United Methodist Church in meetings with Mayor Ballard, because we saw those as some of the root causes of the violence in the city. I do support the public safety tax. My concern is with that is that we don't have a police solution to try to address the issue of crime and violence. We see the results of those police strategies all across the country when we see the basically people across the country that, you know, have issues with how police are particularly treating men of color, particularly black males. So I think we have to address those issues of race and police, and that cannot be our main strategy, a policing strategy to address many of these issues.
I have 15 seconds. Can you tell me when you think you'll make an announcement whether or not you will run? Is that sometime in January, sometime in February, March, April?
I would say sometime in January.
Mid-January?
Late January.
You'll come back and tell us?
I'll come back and tell you.
Reverend Harrison, thank you so much. Best of luck to you as you explore your run for mayor of Indianapolis. Thank you, sir. Coming up, he's one of the most polarizing figures in recent years in Indiana. Now we're learning of a new report recommending criminal charges against Tony Bennett. The new developments next on Indianapolis This Week. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we welcome our political insiders, Laura Beck and Jennifer Hollowell. You just heard from Reverend Harrison. What kind of impact will his candidacy have if he decides to run?
Well, this has been a mayor's race with a number of twists and turns. And so at this point in time, we don't know which side he's going to run on, so we don't even know that yet. And we also don't even know if he's going to run. Filing an exploratory committee is a first step. Would he split
the Democrats, though, if he runs as a Democrat?
I don't think he would split the Democrats. I think the Democrats are going to be very united around Joe Hogsett now that Ed Delaney has stepped out of the race to take the Ways and Means position.
How do Republicans see this?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of Republicans who are considering running right now, so, you know, we have...
But no names have surfaced, right? We're still waiting.
Well, there are names out there, and there are names that are not public yet.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, with regard to Reverend Harrison, you know, I have a lot of respect for the work that, that he does and that the 10-Point Coalition does. And, you know, so I think that he has an opportunity to add a really important dialogue to this race. But, you know, we'll have to see how all the politics plays out.
He does bring, I mean, he does bring a whole new element to the race, and I think that's something that, you know, talking about the two Indianapolises, I think that's something that we need to talk about.
Another major breaking story from this week, that stunning new report surrounding former state school superintendent Tony Bennett. The Associated Press discovering the 95-page report from the Inspector General's office that found evidence of more than 100 violations of federal law and recommended, even urged, that charges be filed. No charges have been filed. Bennett has paid a $5,000 fine for an ethics violation based on earlier parts of the investigation.
Knowing that there were separate aspects of the investigation, we'll do exactly the same thing we did in the first instance, which we'll review it, and if based on that review it appears that there's some indication of criminal conduct, then we could very well initiate additional aspects of investigation.
So where do we go from here? Obviously, some serious allegations against the former school superintendent. What happens next?
Well, first of all, I would say a lot of this has been really sensationalized, and I think...
By whom?
By a reporter. I think that probably the person who's looking the worst right now is Prosecutor Terry Curry, who claimed not to have received this full report, when in fact his office acknowledged receipt of 12 binders last February. And, you know, in that, my understanding is that the report the information in the binders is a lot of supporting documentation, things like that. So I don't think that there's any new evidence that hasn't already been reviewed. And the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney was Joe Hogsett, and the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, Terry Curry, both, Curry said that there was minimal evidence and that it was inappropriate to pursue any criminal charges.
If this were a Democrat, would you be screaming for charges, though?
Since that, but he puts himself in a really bad spot. One, because he's acknowledged that they have 12 binders, they don't know where they are.
If this were a Democrat, would she change your argument?
He's having to say something that his base isn't going to like.
Well, I think that, I think if it were a Democrat, they may be singing a different tune. But I also think, though, that when you talk about this in a larger context, there is this supposed report out there, and we don't know what that report looks like, because the only people who have seen it is a reporter from the Associated Press, who is the person, Tom LaBianca, who broke the story, as well as people in the Inspector General's office. So part of the question
and the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. But
don't interrupt me. So this report is out there, right? So, but we don't know what's in it. We don't know what's there.
Should it be made public? Should we all see it and just put it all out there for all of us to read?
I don't think the Republicans would want that to happen, because that would compromise an investigation. I think anytime you're in an investigatory stage, you need to make sure you have time to investigate those. As far as what, to go back to Jen and talking about the prosecutor, they want to talk about anything other than Tony Bennett right now and what's in this report. And if those allegations that are in this report are true, they're very disturbing, and that erodes public trust in public servants.
Is this an issue we just want to go away? Because here we go, we're talking about Tony Bennett again, and Tony Bennett lost the election.
Tony Bennett, it's like he will never go away. It's like he's always here.
Let's talk about what it is. You act like, what is so disturbing. Joe Hogsett was the Secretary of State. He ran for 2 offices while he was Secretary of State. Do you think that he ever had a
now, I think you're making some really strong allegations here against somebody like Joe Hogsett.
I'm not making an allegation. I'm raising the question because
what about Mayor Ballard?
Elected officials go to great lengths to try to separate the political from the official. It is a challenging thing to do, as you would know and understand. Tony Bennett acknowledged that there were mistakes made. There were mistakes made, for which he also paid a price. But to act like this is some sort of intentional case of misusing state resources is not what it was.
Will there be charges?
The Inspector General, I don't know if there will be charges, but the Inspector General himself, somebody from the Inspector General's office, believed that he should be prosecuted for wire fraud. So if that's the case,
he should be prosecuted.
But if you go back and read those, but they haven't produced a report. They've produced a report that they've only shown to the Associated Press and supposedly shown to agencies.
A report that they showed to, and the U.S. Attorney's Office they showed to the people who would decide whether or not to file charges.
It brings back a larger conversation.
Wrap it up.
It brings back a larger, I don't want to interrupt, it brings back a larger conversation, though, about the role of the Inspector General. And I think that that is something we've had a lot of conversations about. If he felt that this was so warranted, then why wasn't he out there pushing and pushing and pushing for it? Why wasn't he asking about the report to whitewash all of the things that they're doing they don't want people to know about?
Debate on this issue.
They submitted the report to the prosecutors who would make those determinations, and they made the determination that there weren't.
And we'll see what they do, right? And we'll see if anything else will happen. But a story that continues to develop. Another big story, of course, Governor Pence laying out his agenda for the coming year, offering an apparent olive branch to Glenda Ritz while preparing to smack her with a stick in the other hand. Our State House reporter Katie Hines has those details.
Governor Mike Pence eliminated the CECI, an agency he created 1 year ago to help align state efforts to connect education with workforce training. And that is welcome news to Superintendent of Public Instruction Glenda Ritz. But in the same announcement on Thursday, Governor Pence also urged lawmakers to strip Ritz's power by allowing the board to elect its own chair.
I just thought it was important that someone take the first step. To restore trust, to restore harmony at the highest levels of education in Indiana. We've simply got to get the State Board of Education working.
Democrats are concerned about how that would impact the superintendent's role. And another observation that's further fueling the speculation that Governor Mike Pence might run for president in 2016. We're told a national political correspondent from the Washington Post was among nearly 12 reporters who attended his speech on Thursday. I'm State House reporter Katie Hines.
Will Glenda Ritz be the last elected superintendent of public instruction based on the course that we're seeing in the State House right now?
Well, I think that's probably in the intent of these Republicans, but I think they're going to inflame Democrats, particularly those Ritz supporters who came out such in droves for her. You know, education policy, as we're seeing, is so politicized. And what's fascinating is that Governor Pence now decides to close down and just abolish the CECI. But, oh, by the way, we're going to take away your power on the state board. So I would imagine that they're going to do everything they can to try and keep her from running again and winning again.
There's been talk for years and years by both parties of making the superintendent of public instruction an appointed position, which a lot of us have supported over the years. I don't know whether that's going to happen anytime soon. If you look at the comments from some of the legislators, you know, they're reluctant to do that at this current time.
Sure.
So I think if you were guessing right now, you would assume that there'd be another election, but there's a strong case to be made, again, that Democrats have also made in the past, that it be appointed.
You have definitely provided a lively Sunday debate. Thank you so much. Of course, you can keep the conversation going with our insiders by checking them out on Twitter. Follow Laura, Jennifer, Mary Beth, and Abdul throughout the week and join the debate. They're ready for you. Coming up, remembering an icon of Indianapolis, we talk about the life and legacy of Bill Mays. This week, this morning, we put our Sunday spotlight on the life and legacy of an Indianapolis icon. Bill Mays died Thursday on his 69th birthday. Mays was known as the most successful African-American businessman in Indiana history, the founder of Mays Chemical, and the owner and publisher of the Indianapolis Recorder newspaper. His work and his charity touched countless lives in central Indiana, and he's being remembered as a true leader of our city. We had the chance to talk to Bill Mays back in 1998 about how he approached his business, and he told us that he loved the challenge of being an entrepreneur.
I've not focused on whether being black is a negative. I've looked at it as an advantage, as a marketing opportunity, and we've just tried to be an outstanding chemical distributor, and we don't get concerned about being, quote, minority anything.
Joining us now is Amos Brown. You know, Amos, all this weekend we've been hearing so many great things about Bill Mays, a titan, a philanthropist, a corporate big shot.
Right.
Who was this guy?
He was all of that, but he was also down to earth. And sometimes people have an impression of business people as being aloof, imperious, looking down on, quote unquote, the little people. That was not Bill Mays. Bill Mays was somebody that could enjoy being around ordinary folks and enjoy being in the streets as well as being in the boardrooms.
If I live in Logansport or Greenwood or Cloverdale, how does this guy impact my life? I mean, how did he shape my life and I not know about it?
I would say he is indicative of a lot of business people here in Indiana that run small businesses. Mays Chemical, even though it's almost a $200 million business, is still...
And that's big.
That's big, but compared to a General Motors, compared to an Anthem, that is still a small business. Bill Mays exemplified, I think, what the folks that you're talking about throughout central Indiana who are watching us this morning want to believe in, that somebody from Indiana can grow up in Indiana, be educated in Indiana, graduate from IU, start out with nothing.
And did good.
And make a success, and then give back to his state, give back to his community. There are a lot of successful men and women who do that all across the state. Bill Mays exemplified the best of the Hoosier spirit.
And he was outspoken, but he also worked behind the scenes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So he lived in those two worlds.
And he was not afraid to do things that people didn't expect. He's African American, predominantly supported Democrats for many, many years, but supported Mitch Daniels for governor. That took a lot of people by surprise. During the Mike Tyson case, when everybody was saying, oh, Mike Tyson is innocent, Mike Tyson didn't do it, Bill Mays stood up publicly in a publisher's editorial in the Recorder saying, wait a minute, there's another side to this story. There's a young woman who was hurt in this. Why are we not taking her side of the story? Bill Mays a lot of times would march to his own drummer if he felt that in his spirit it was right, and you have to applaud that.
So how will history remember him? What will be that legacy 10, 20 years down the road?
That's a very good question. I think he has built a legacy in terms of a successful business person, a successful community servant leader in terms of giving back to the community. And the real test of Bill Mays' legacy should not be that he was the only one. He would want someone to replicate and exceed the things that he did, particularly minorities. If no one can get to be a level that Bill Mays was and exceed that, then that would be a disappointment to all that he worked for.
And next week on your radio program, you hope to celebrate that amazing life.
Yeah, we're planning on something, Rafael, on Tuesday, kind of bringing in the different perspectives, everything from his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, IU, hopefully former Governor Daniels, as well as his broadcasting empire, Bill Shirk, who worked with him. And people said, how could somebody like crazy Bill Shirk work with a button-down businessman like Bill Mays? They got along like peas and carrots.
We look forward to that program. Amos, thank you so much. Amos Brown, helping us remember an Indianapolis icon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And come back to the program anytime.
On Sunday morning.
That's right. Thank you. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of Bill Mays and all of those whose lives he touched here in Indiana. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. We hope you have a great weekend. We hope to see you back here on Sunday at 8:30. Have a great day.